Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Haselmayer, along with my husband, Joey.
Good morning.
And together we hope to educate, inspire, and equip you in your pursuit of true nourishment. I'm back, you guys. Celebrate.
Everyone is so happy, including me.
No. I actually think the Man series was so incredible for this community. It's going to be something that we're going to continue to do like in increments. Like I think you already have some other shows you want to record.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably batch those, just like sprinkle them in.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get to a point, honestly, where we're just like cranking 2 episodes a week, but I don't know that our lifestyle is conducive for that right now. But you guys, it's 2025. I love the new year. I've said that multiple times. I just love the energy that the new year brings. And we have been just behind the scenes talking so much about our lives and Homegrown and this community and this podcast. And if you haven't noticed, last year, we stayed in the lane of real food and farming and health. And then we also added in some parenting and just like personal development and growth and just like wider philosophy. And it's really folded in nicely. And today's episode is about this concept that Joey and I have been working on and working through and living out for the last, 2 years? It's fresh, but it's like been so top of mind. And it's this idea that we want to raise wildly capable kids. And Joey really coined that phrase, and I'll let him kind of talk about how he got there and where this even came from. But today's episode is about exactly that. And I think it's probably one of the most important episodes we've recorded, and it's really powerful. And this like beginning of the year energy, I think, could really lend itself well to, as a family, regrouping and centering around this mission of raising wildly capable kids. So, babe, I'll let you kind of talk about it.
Pretty regularly, you and I will do goal setting. We'll talk about what we want for ourselves, our businesses, our health and wellness, our spiritual life, our kids. And in one of these conversations, we really honed in on our children. I think it stemmed from a season of major discontentment with the development we were seeing within our children. I think Ruthie was struggling with some reading. She was having a hard time catching up. You were frustrated with Sophia not having hobbies or things to work on or grow into or focus on or challenge her. And Ray was, at the beginning stages of learning how to kind of like get into life and grow up. And we just didn't want to play defense and be stagnant in our parenting. We didn't want it to just react to things as they happened.
Yeah.
And so then we just talked about, what do we actually want for our kids? Like it kind of opened up a broader conversation, and we were naming off things like, we want our kids to be able to do this and to do this. And the list just never stopped. It was like, we just kept coming up with ideas like, well, we want them to be better than us at this. And we want them to be, elite in this. We want them to be super healthy and spiritually dialed in. And we want them to understand like how to grow in their own education. We want them to be able to own that themselves. We don't just want to teach them, well, I taught them everything they know. It's like, no, I want to teach them how to learn things, and they taught themselves things that they wanted to know, And we were trying to come up with like a phrase that would guide our actions as we parented our kids so that we could make quick decisions as parents and not have to have like a family meeting every time some minor issue or opportunity came about. Right. And these statements, these strategies, these guiding principles, these ways of life, these worldviews, these things can help you make decisions. That's why it's powerful to say that I am a X, right? I am a Christian. I'm on a real food journey. These things have power. Now, again, I'm not trying to make people feel like we're some kind of cult or something, but saying that I'm on a real food journey can help you make decisions. It's powerful. It's ceremonious. It's something that can help guide you day after day after day after day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we wanted that for our children. So saying our kids are on a real food journey is like, okay. But we ultimately decided that we wanted to have wildly capable kids, not just, average. Not just, well, we want to be in the upper percentile. Like that stuff just is not interesting to me. I want our kids to be like, people see them, talk to them, interact with them and be like, whoa, those kids are like wildly capable. Like, I don't understand why they're that way. And so then we started to kind of like break down, like, so how do we do that? How do we encourage and or intentionally push our kids to becoming wildly capable? How do we do that? Right. And that's kind of how we got to where we are. And so ultimately, because that was a focus of ours, it bled into every part of our life. It bled into guests we bring onto the podcast, right? We're talking like Nordic parents from the other side of the world that are leaving their kids out in the cold, wrapped up in blankets so that they become more resilient, and how we're going to teach them about, adult things a lot sooner so that they can take ownership of those behaviors, right? And it just helped shape the way that we parent, because we were focused on something that was, a pretty big, audacious goal of wildly capable kids.
For me, someone who I like to get into some of the philosophy of parenting, and I see these waves coming and going, almost like these trends in parenting culture. And gentle parenting is a big thing right now, and then also there's the counter of that is this like disciplinary authoritative parenting, and there's so much in between. And all of these sort of parenting philosophies that exist really speak to the parent, like who they are in their parenting relationship. Oh, I'm a gentle parent, so the way I approach my child is this way, XYZ. Or I'm authoritarian. And the thing I like about this concept that you and I have been working on is that wildly capable kids takes the focus and the ego off of the parents. And it puts it on, no, this isn't about me. This isn't about how I look as a parent. This isn't about how I am perceived by others, because I can't just say, oh yeah, we do gentle parenting, so you know something about me now. I want you to know something about my kids. Like, I want my parenting to be about who they're becoming, not about my own ego as who I am as a parent. And so I think that this has been helpful for my own mindset, because I think ego, it tarnishes our parenting relationship way more than we know. And that's something that's really been illuminated by us working through changing our own mindset, is like, man, there are times when the parenting decision to raise a wildly capable kid makes us look maybe different or odd, or maybe even like, I'm not sure about that to other people. And so all of a sudden we have to stop making decisions based on, well, what does it say about me as the parent? How do I look in this moment? And say, you know what, put my own reputation and self aside and ego aside. What is best for my kid right now for their growth in this moment? And that's been really challenging, I think, for me and probably for you, but just as a mom, with so much of our identity is wrapped up in like how we're doing. And I like this kind of glass shattering moment of like, it's not about me. It's not about how I look. It's not about what people think about me in the grocery store, or what my parents think about this approach that I'm doing, or what my friends think I'm doing. It's not about that. It's about those kids and how we're supporting them to be capable. And that's been really, really powerful for me personally.
There's a major enemy to wildly capable kids. There's a number of enemies. And enemy number one is what you just said, pride as a parent. There's this weird culture of, I want people to see me as some super successful parent. And sometimes that means that I have super submissive children, or that therein lies your authoritative parent. Like, I'm just going to be in charge. My kids do anything I say, and my kids respect me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, is a very respectful, submissive child wildly capable? It's like, well, it doesn't totally fit our definition. Do I want my kids to disrespect me? No. But if they become more autonomous in their way of life, are they going to become a little bit more challenging of our decisions? Yes, they will. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we So the pride is an enemy. Another enemy of this objective that we've identified is discomfort as a parent. So your pride, but also your comfort. It's uncomfortable as a parent to challenge your kids, to stress them out. Oh, my kid's so stressed. Okay, dude, like you cannot relieve them of all stress and pain. Like they're going to require zero grit if you don't let them push through anything on their own. We were watching Lost, the scene where John Locke is talking to Charlie about the moth coming out of the cocoon, right?
Yeah, it's so good.
But it's such a great example, right? If you open the cocoon for the moth or the butterfly, then it doesn't have enough strength to live.
Won't survive.
Won't survive. And it's such a great metaphor for parenting. And it's uncomfortable to watch your kids struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable.
And here's the thing I think that we've forgotten is that there's a huge difference between chronic stress, which leads to all kinds of issues down the road, and acute stress.
Totally.
Acute lifetime stress is something that is normal and we should be taught how to handle, coached how to handle. I'm not saying put your kids in a systemic state of stress. Okay. I'm saying like meet their basic needs, clothe them, give them warm shelter, give them the right food. But even within those categories, right? Battling them over a food choice when it's no longer appropriate for them to be resisting you. That's a bit of stress that you're going to be uncomfortable letting them live in because they're not getting everything just wiped away clean for them easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so really distinguishing between, hey, it's okay to have these little spurts, this acute stress in this moment, because this is actually teaching them how to grow past that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're not saying put your kids in a chronic state of stress, but there's so much currently that would have us lured into this idea that we need to create a stress-free environment.
It's interesting too. There's age-appropriate stress, I would even say.
Yeah.
And you're going to identify between children what's appropriate for their age, because not all 8-year-olds are the same, not all 4-year-olds are the same, not all 13-year-olds are the same, right? And so we're blessed with a scenario to experiment with this kind of concept with the fact that we have a teenager, almost 14-year-old, 9-year-old, 4-year-old, and an infant.
Yeah.
So we have just the whole gambit here.
That's wild.
And what's crazy, a learning that I have made in the midst of this, is that you can see stress appropriate age regression. And what I mean by that is that my teenager actually has regressed in the amount of stress that she can handle. And I'm not being funny and I'm not being rude, but that as she is dealing with natural stressors of maturity and growth, hormones, emotions, she is feeling stress already because of that growth that's natural. And so the amount of stress that she can handle externally has greatly reduced. And so, monitoring that, regularly assessing where my kids are and how they're progressing are just some of the ways that we have, I guess, approached this wildly capable kids objective.
I think so you were naming off some enemies.
Yeah, we've got comfort.
Yeah. And then
pride.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a third one that you can think of?
Well, we haven't named it out, but I think control is a big part of this. It kind of goes with pride, but if you break
comfort, sort of.
Yeah, but if you break it down a little further, there are so many things where like I want to just control it, and because again, it makes me look better. I want to control what my kid is wearing so that when we go out in public, it's totally like a cute outfit. Now, there's some degree of like teaching your kids how to like be presentable and take pride in their
age
appearance.
Appropriate. Remember, it's if you have a 3-year-old that says, I don't want to wear a coat and it's cold out. You're like, okay, listen, we wear coats when it's cold. That way we don't get cold, because what's going to happen is that an hour from now, you're going to be really upset because you're cold.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when my 13-year-old says, I don't want to wear a coat, I'm like, all right. Then she goes outside for the walk. Next thing you know, 5 minutes later, she's coming inside to get her coat.
Right.
And I don't be like, I ain't telling you so. I'm just like, okay, well, she's learning on her own and she wants to make decisions. And here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Little things too. Like just the idea that we have to constantly survey our kids and just know exactly where they are, and every moment ensure their safety is something that is such a strong pull. I feel that too. And there's an element of that lives in this desire for us to just control them and their actions all the time. And there has to be some give. Okay. There has to be some point where we're saying, okay, I'm going to relinquish a little bit of control in this situation to let my kid make this decision on their own, or to work through this problem on their own. And it's so hard to find that line, but the only way you continuously find that line is to test it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, last night is a great example. We are sitting at the table, adults chatting, and, our 8-year-old keeps coming in and interrupting the conversation for things that don't need to be discussed. Just, hey, I need your help. Oh, what do you need our help with? Well, it's just this thing upstairs and I want you. It's like, no, you need to either be able to articulate the need specifically, or we're not going to break this social time that we're having, because you know what, we've poured into a ton and now it's our time to commune as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew that. And then eventually it was like, oh, figured it out. Don't worry. I got it. Where's that line,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it was a 4-year-old who maybe wasn't able to speak as well, and so you're like, okay, well, I will come see what
Totally.
you need. You got to find that line. And there's really no calculation for it, because like you said, everyone is so different. And
another example of that for our specific, I'm saying, almost 9-year-old, but she's 8. We were on a trip recently. We were out to eat, and Ruthie told me what she wants to eat. We read the menu. She can read, and she told me what she wants to eat. And I said, hey, Ruth, I'm not going to order for you. So I'm going to order for myself. Your grandpa and Mimi are at the table with me. They're going to order. And if the server asks you what you want and you can't say it, I'll just say, I guess she's not hungry. And Ruthie looked at me just like appalled and terrified. Like, I'm going to have to talk to this server. And I said, yeah, like that's how life is. Now, do I make my 4-year-old do that? Well, honestly, my 4-year-old probably would do that. But I also know, based on regularly assessing my children's strengths and weaknesses, that this is an area for Ruthie where she could grow.
mm-hmm.
She could stand to grow a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She could stand to deal with a little bit of stress. And when that server looked at her in the eyes, and I just acted like this wasn't my problem, and said, anything for you, honey? She looked up and said, and she had cleared her throat. And she said, yeah, I'll have, and she ordered her food. And after she was done ordering it, you could just see her like coming into her own, and the win that she had. And she did not want to do it at all. And you know what? It was uncomfortable for me because it took a little bit of extra time that the server was busy, and I'm the parent and I look like I'm wasting the server's time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It made Ruthie uncomfortable, and you watch your kids be uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. But ultimately, it allowed Ruthie to get a win under her belt, right? If she would have just broken down into tears, I probably would have interjected, right? I don't want to overstress her, but she didn't. I know my kids. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this and you have kids, you probably know your kids too. Mm-hmm. I was teeing you up for this third enemy, and I had a different one in mind. And mine was going to be parental alignment. And so having alignment between whoever is parenting these children, whether it's guardians to biological parents, adoptive parents, whoever is over these children, hopefully it's 2 parents. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know that's not always the case, but let's say you are a single mom living with your parents. Then your parents need to be in some way, shape, or form aligned with these objectives as well, mm-hmm. or these principles, these ideas, these ways of acting. And that stinks because they want to be grandparents. Well, you're not in that position right now, and you have to have that conversation with them, or you have to find a way to separate. But whoever is parenting these kids need to be aligned. So finding alignment is so critical, because if you've got one parent that is allowing kids to feel stress, challenging them, well, kids are going to do what kids do, and that's find the path of least resistance. So if there's another parent that's very controlling, you know who you are if you're listening to this, very controlling, I want to solve the problem. I'm not going to let my kids make the mess. They've made a mess. I don't think they're going to do a good job cleaning it, so I'm going to clean it. I don't want them to use the knife cutting the food because they're going to cut their finger. I don't want them to stir the pot on the stove because they're going to make a mess. If you're that parent, well, you're going to have to feel that uncomfortable feeling of relinquishing some control. Mm-hmm. And so having that alignment is so key, and you cannot find that alignment without proper communication. And that is something that you and I have had to intentionally invest a heavy amount of time into. And that's regularly communicating, assessing our children's progress and needs, where they're doing really well, where they could see some, investment, whether it be in time, financial, right? It's like, hey, some of our kids aren't swimming very well. So we financially invested into swimming lessons, and we put them in swimming lessons for as long as we possibly could. So sometimes it's financial investment. Sometimes it's a emotional investment. It's, I need to spend more time with this person. I need to start watching Lost with my 14-year-old because, she does, her and I cannot relate on almost anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we can find a TV show that we like. We can have conversations about what we think is going to happen. And that naturally will bleed into regularly communicating about other things, because we're regularly talking, right? So finding something that'll work is something that we're working on. So I think having that alignment, having that communication with your partner, your spouse, your, whoever is helping you with this is so key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For us, it kind of started out as just our morning coffee. We would just be talking, and not every day would be like this intense conversation about our kids, but you spend enough time in the morning together, and you're still kind of blurry from yesterday's, what happened then and what your kids are going through, and you wake up with the same problems every day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you are the stay-at-home parent and you've got to step right back into that role. Well, it's going to be on my mind. So I would just be sharing things, and oftentimes either just like looking to hear like your perspective, or looking for advice or help. And this time in the morning really helped shape, okay, well, like, let's actually look at this and like say, well, if we are seeing this repetitive, consistent problem, then we need to change something. Okay. Same thing if we saw something in our marriage or something in one of us, it's like, oh, I need to fix it. And we always had the goal of achieving some sort of change or success within a time frame. Like, hey, summer's coming up. Like, we have to equip our kids well to swim. We have a pool in our backyard. It's a
Mm-hmm.
safety concern. Okay. Or, hey, we just want to have fun on vacations, and we want our kids to be able to be really strong swimmers. Let's
Mm-hmm.
do it. Let's invest. And so we would have these conversations, and like you said, we've been sort of practicing that. And it didn't start out as this like really articulate, really formulated thing. It was just natural and casual. And so finding whatever feels like a good time and space to have that conversation is so important, but knowing that it's not going to be this like, oh, one conversation and we're done. And that's the piece that I think is really important, is like being self-aware enough to know, hey, we have this problem with this kid, or we have this opportunity for growth. That's how we phrase it, instead of, it's more positive. We have this opportunity for growth in this child with this in this area. Instead of coming back and continuously just reiterating what we've already said, let's change the conversation. Okay, let's mix it up. Let's take a different approach. And if we don't see results by this time, let's go seek external help, because it's beyond you and me's capacity. And we've had to do that. We've asked advice from lots of people over the course of like many problems with many kids. We turn to people we trust. We're like, hey, what are you seeing here? What are you seeing in this kid that maybe we're missing? And so this regular time of coming together and talking is where that parental alignment really blossomed and continues to do so. But it can't be this continual like complaining, sitting down, these are the things that I'm so frustrated by, and that's it. It has to graduate to the next level. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And so that again is a really hard part, because it's not always natural to have those conversations with your spouse, especially if you're not in that rhythm. Maybe you only talk about like logistics of who's doing pickup and drop off and whatever. And then to get into like, to peel back the layers of like, hey, what's really going on with their heart, do you think? That's hard. That's really hard. And I would say it's something we're still practicing and trying to get better at, because man, our kids change every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it challenging.
And that leads us to, I would say, our first, tactic that we've developed in the midst of this. And ultimately what we decided is that there cannot be which is why we talked about this in the beginning, parenting model that we can stick to forever.
Yeah.
Now they all have good elements to them, right? Oh, the gentle parenting is good in this stage and for these moments and for this time and for this experience. But then there's some authoritative parenting that's good for these moments and for this time and for these occasions. And so we really, annoyingly and kind of cliche-esque, we said we're gonna create our own model, which is adaptive parenting. And what that looks like, the core to adaptive parenting is regular communication between ourselves. So adaptive parenting starts with us. We're putting our masks on first before our kids. So are you and I aligned with what we're working towards? And are we seeing the same problems, opportunities, challenges?
Because sometimes we don't.
Sometimes I'm like, yo, this doesn't bother me like it bothers you, but should we address it? And it's like, yeah, here's how we can do that. Good. And same thing goes for you. I'm like, hey, listen, this is a problem. You're like, oh man, I hadn't been thinking about that or seeing that or whatever, right? It's easy to get in the weeds or to be removed. Yeah. I work full time. I'm out of the house a lot. You're at home full time. So we're going to see very different perspectives, which is healthy and good. So now we're kind of getting a complete picture, and then we can kind of put that picture together so we can both be aligned on what's happening and what we're supposed to be doing. So first and foremost, communication, so that we know what we're doing, what we're working towards. Having goals and objectives established for your kids, very key. And those goals and objectives can change very regularly. It could change day to day. It could change month to month. And I would encourage people to act quickly and swiftly. Having a lot of conversations is great. Where's the action? Did you do something?
Yeah.
You are the parents. So not only are you guiding your kids, teaching them, but you're also letting them deal with some things on their own. It's so funny how this works, but you're also modeling. You can't stand up and say, man, my kid has no hobbies, but do you have hobbies? Are there things that you're modeling that they may have interest in? Well, my kid says they don't want to play soccer. Cool. They don't want to play soccer. Are you playing soccer regularly? Are you doing anything? Are you just coming home from work and sitting on your phone and you're worried about why your kid just wants to sit on their iPad, their phone, or their tablet or whatever, or watch shows all the time? Are you doing things other than that? It's interesting when you think about it, right? Because it's not just setting up rules for your kids all the time, but it's also modeling. It's also letting them figure things out on their own when it's age appropriate in different areas, different challenges. So having those kinds of tactics at your disposal, but you have to act. And the reason I say modeling is that sometimes it means like, are you doing that? Are you communicating with your spouse or your partner? Are you doing that? Or the other parent, the other guardian in this, are you doing that? Are you actually having those conversations? And are you treating the person that you're having those conversations with respect? Maybe you feel like you're doing everything, they're not doing anything. There's just so many ways you can blow this thing up, and you have to be careful. Right?
It's a delicate.
Last thing you want to do, speaking as a husband and a father, last thing you want to do as a wife listening to this is go find your husband and attack him because he's not being more intentional about your kid's development and growth. Because then he's going to be like, yo, what are you talking about? Right? I come home and I see my kids at their worst all the time. I come home and it's just like,
chaos.
And it's almost like you're happy about that because you want me to feel it. And it's like, I don't ever get to see the times where they're just like playing happily and you get to read a book or take a nap or watch a show or take a bath, take a shower. Like, again, not trying to take any women off right now, any moms or stay-at-home parents, but oh my gosh, let's be careful about how we address our spouse. Same goes for dads coming home and addressing your spouse and saying, seems like chaos all the time. You need to get things under control. Yeah. Bad move, not the play. So absolutely, first tactic of adaptive parenting is communication, and then there's guiding, right? Teaching, like actively instructing your kids. There's kind of watching and monitoring, letting them kind of deal with challenges on their own, and modeling. So there's kind of like those three different areas that you need to be kind of balancing. And with adaptive parenting, the reason why we call it adaptive is that because of that communication and those different methods of deploying some parental guidance in a way, whether it's modeling, letting them figure it out on their own, but like making sure they stay safe, right? And also teaching them, like directly telling them what to do. You need to be regularly changing your approach per kid, per age. It could be monthly. When you start to get a teenager, it's like weekly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like weekly that they have different challenges or things they're dealing with. You start to deal with social media and technology. Oh my gosh, it's like daily. You're talking about, hey, here's some ways that I can coach you on how I deal with my technology better. And then you model, hey, every night if we're going to watch a show together, I'm not going to be anywhere near my cell phone. Or if we're having dinner and we want to have a conversation, I'm not anywhere near my cell phone. Modeling, right? Teaching, hey, Sophie, put your iPad away. I don't want you to be in your room with it alone, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Guiding, man, she's been on her iPad for a while. Let's just let this play out. Let it play out. Because after she's on it for 2.5 hours, she's going to get off and be really groggy. Then we can have a conversation about it. Same goes for all of our kids. Right? I don't want to pick on Sophie, but regularly adapting your approach to how you're parenting your kids might need to be more authoritative, might need to be more grace-filled, gentle parenting, whatever you want to call it. Newborn, yeah, it's daily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like you're going to authoritative approach with a newborn, but your approach in general has to be adjusting on a regular basis.
Oh, all the time.
And so that's why you got to be talking.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? What's working? What's not working?
Do you think we should move bedtime up? How do you think we should handle this? This seems to be like his fussy hour. What's going on?
You had an idea. You had an idea that we've been implementing recently, and that's been the give it a month. Give it a month. Try something new. Give it a month. After a month, if you identify it's not working, you need to be look each other in the eyes and be like, that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
We're changing. We're shifting. Our approach is going to be shifting. So if a behavior hasn't adjusted or shifted in a month based off of intentional intervention or modeling, then you need to change your approach.
Yeah.
Example of this would be like potty training.
Mm-hmm.
If you're potty training and a month goes by, you need to adapt your approach. If it's one, hey, we've been trying this authoritative approach and it's not working. Change the approach. Let's try a reward-based system. Let's try if they keep waking up in the night and they're wetting the bed. Well, we're punishing them over and over and over again every night for doing that right away. We're having conversations about it during the day, not working. Well, what could we do? Well, maybe we can try a more preventative approach. Again, it's all adaptive. Maybe it's, hey, when my kid starts doing the potty dance, we practice holding it in the daytime in anticipation of being able to hold it more at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And what that looks like is, hey, you know what? If my kid cannot hold their bowels or their bladder in the daytime, how am I going to expect them to do it at nighttime? They're doing a great job going potty in the daytime because every time they have to go, they start screaming about how they have to go potty, and then they panic. And I make a huge ordeal about it, rushing them to the potty. Like if someone's in there, I'm yanking them off the toilet, right? Because this little kid has to go to the bathroom right now. Well, do you practice holding it? How are they supposed to hold it at night if you don't ever let them hold it during the day? Anyways, these are some of the things that you can be looking for and doing as you work towards your accomplishing objectives with your kids.
Yeah, because we don't have this ultimate lens into exactly what is developmentally appropriate for each kid at each age. We're guessing all the time.
Exactly.
And so what that does is it lets you know oh, okay, we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we needed to give that one more time.
100%.
Or maybe we are there because there's other signs that they're definitely ready for this, but we were just approaching it wrong. And so again, we're splitting hairs here, but that's the point. The point is that you need to be so granular in your approach to parenting that you are constantly having conversation about it and adapting when appropriate. We're not saying shift your philosophy every dang day, but this proactive posture is really, it's honestly, it's a lot. It's so intentional and so involved, but I would say the reward is incredible because what we've seen through this now kind of 2 years of really trying to make this our goal is we've seen our kids flourish in ways that we didn't think was possible. We've seen our, 8-year-old just cook an entire breakfast in the morning before any of us are awake. And she handled raw meat, and she handled a gas stove safely, and she chopped up fruit and vegetable. Like, those moments we're like, oh, wow, you're capable in this area because we spent all that time practicing and teaching and modeling for you. And now you can do it without even prompting. And so those little wins, man, they're awesome. And we cling to them, right? We got to hang on to those because the granular parental day to day can be hard. It can be challenging.
Anyways, to tie a bow on that, be very quick to fire, cancel, end an approach if it's not working. Be very quick to do that. Hey, you know what? I tried allowing my kids to hold it and working on holding their, bladder in the daytime. And after 30 days of doing that, they can hold it for 30 minutes after they say they have to go to the bathroom, and it's still not working. Okay. Try something else. Limit liquid consumption sooner and be strict about it. There's just so many different ways to approach it. Start waking up your child 2 hours after they've gone to bed and making them go to the bathroom. There's so many different approaches, and you have to be creative. You have to isolate an issue and talk about what solutions there could possibly be, and you have to try them. You have to activate them quickly, and then you have to be disciplined to stay consistent with them. And again, that's not comfortable. It's not comfortable, right? These are the things we're talking about. An enemy to this is it's going to be uncomfortable as a parent if you ask your kid to hold it and then they have an accident during the day. That stinks. Now you're like, well, literally and metaphorically, right? It's just frustrating because now you feel like, oh, like we were past this, and now I am the problem. I am now causing my kid to have accidents every now and then during the daytime because I'm making them hold it. But what the return on that investment might be, and likely is now my child is realizing if I can't hold it, I'll lose it, and I've got to work on that. And they can feel that. They can feel that it's not just a dire sprint to the bathroom, but that they can control things a little bit more and see success. And it's crazy how that can be beneficial. And yeah, you're going to have that. You have to lose some of that control. You have to lose some of that progress, right? To kind of gain more progress in another area. So anyhow.
You know what else is really uncomfortable is the concept of not treating everyone in your home with the exact same parental approach.
Totally.
So often it's like, well, this is how we handle it.
It's adaptive per kid, not adaptive per season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be hard because then you run into scenarios where
it's not fair.
Like, exactly.
Why does so-and-so get to have more autonomy than me? They're older than you. Sorry, I'm going to let this person have a treat because they take care of their body better than you do. So you need to understand more about your nourishment. And I'm going to be more directive and more authoritative over what you're consuming because you're going to always choose sweets. Always.
Yeah, you're not there yet. And saying that explicitly to your kids, I think can be helpful. Like, listen, hey, it's pretty clear for us because our age gaps are about 4 years apart. So like our kids can see like, oh yeah, we're not really peers in this scenario. But I think even for folks with kids with a closer age gap, it's still okay. Like every kid is so different. I don't know where we thought like, oh, we have to parent each kid the same way. And because that's also creating all kinds of other stresses for you down the road of like, oh, I really needed to address this kid in this way, but if I did that, then I can't allow this child to do the one thing. Drop all of that. Just look at them individually and discuss them as such. So when we sit down for that morning coffee, we're not like, hey, how are our kids doing? We might have a general sense of like, what's our home feel like right now? But we're usually dialed into like, hey, I had a kind of a hard day yesterday with this child. Is there something I could have done better? And usually the answer is like, oh, well, I was actually noticing this. Another cool thing that I think we are testing out right now is the idea that while we don't parent each kid the exact same. We also know kind of our roles as the parents. So the scenario where you were sitting down and letting Ruthie order her food would have stressed me the heck out, and I just would have probably panicked, and she might not have even responded well to me as the parent doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was you, it was fine. And so there's this whole other thing of like, which parent needs to take on this role? There are things that are more appropriate to come from mom, and there are things that are more appropriate to come from dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to look different for every family,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay. And you can't just like put all the hard stuff on one parent and all the like fun stuff on the other, but you have to split it up and be like realistic about like, this kid honestly doesn't really trigger me as much as this kid seems to be triggering you. Like we've had that conversation recently of like, your personalities actually are so similar that you guys like kind of rub each other the wrong way. So maybe like I just take this one.
Totally.
And then I'm relieved by that because I'm like, cool, that's fine. You handle it because I feel tapped out.
We were split in a restaurant. And I walked over and I said, I'm going to take this one. And this one's going to sit with me because I have an extra chair at my table. And there were no complaints from mom. I said, I also saw it as an opportunity to isolate her in a situation where she would be challenged to have adult conversation. Just sitting, no kids at our table, just me, 2 other adults, boom. And it was great. It was very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that we'll probably continue to share more on this topic.
100%.
It is.
I think we can do a whole series of wildly capable kids as we go through, because gang, we're really scratching the surface here. We've really been working really hard at this, not because, we're content creators, although that is a part of reason why we're working on it, but also because we're parents and we're living this out every single day. Okay. We fail as parents and we succeed as parents every single day. And we also have a ridiculous desire to see our kids grow and be successful. And I refuse to play defense. I refuse to play defense. I refuse to wake up every day, see a problem, and then just try to diffuse the problem so I can get to the next day. It's not how I'm working. I would much rather play offense so that I'm uncomfortable now, working extra hard now, sprinting up and down the line now, so that 5 years from now, I can just reap the benefits of wildly capable kids. And that they can reap the benefits too. I want them to look back and be like, yo, so thankful that I was forced to do that. Hated it at the time, but I feel so much more able, capable, mature to make decisions, work through hard situations. I have more skill in this area. I'm more academically gifted in this region because of the investment my parents made. That's what I'm doing.
I saw a quote the other day from Ginny's podcast, 1,000 Hours Outside, that said, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, we have the end goal in mind so clearly. Like I picture it. What are these kids going to be like in their upper teens, 20s, 30s? Like I want them to be just baller.
Absolutely.
So cool. Anything else you want to share?
I just want people to feel the freedom to pick our brains on this. So if you're a dad out there and you have questions about adaptive parenting, communication with your spouse, we are working on this every single day and we're really passionate about it. Reach out to me, reach out to Elizabeth on Instagram and ask us your questions. Happily, we'll share our info. And also if you have suggestions that you're thinking like, wow, they're totally missing the mark on this, let me know, because I'm curious and I'm always willing to learn. And I'm humble enough to admit that I don't have it all figured out. And this is an example of Elizabeth and I, as veteran parents. I say veteran in the sense that like we've been doing it for 13 years, almost 14 years, and we have 4 children. And so veteran in the sense that like we've been through some battles. Okay. We're not done. We're not out. We're not in the clear. We have no proven success.
True.
But we are in the thick of it right now. And we're going to share everything we've learned, and we want to get better and help other people get better. That's kind of the objective and the goal here. If you love this content, you want to hear more about it, leave us a review on the podcast. If you've been a long-time listener, you already know that we have shoptheh.com. If you're new here, we have a store. We sell things on that store to get you and your family healthy and more squared away than they are currently. And we've got everything from dish soap to body soap to coffee and tea and handmade wooden products for your home, sourdough making tools that are just better. Not only are they aesthetically pleasing, but also they are functional. Go to haselmeyergoods.com or shoptheh.com. Homegrown is a discount code. Homegrown 10 or just homegrown?
Homegrown or podcast 10.
Get you 10% off your order. Go check that out and find us on Instagram. I'm at Joey Haselmayer. Elizabeth is at Liz Haselmayer or at homegrown_education. And until next time, friends, let's wrap.